Welcome back to Open Your Eyes, and we're now moving into our first segment for the morning. And just before the commercial break, we told you about the dissolvement of the GSU, an anti-gang task force, and formation of GI3 unit. And I told you, you know what? Yeah, we all wanted to know what it is, or we all want to know what it is. And we've got in with us the top cop of the country. The Commissioner of Police is on the screen with us, Chester Williams. Sir, good morning.
Good morning. Buenos días, señor Palacio y señorita Marlene.
Buenas benafis, senor, and Happy New Year.
Same to you, my brother.
So, Commissioner, you know, we won't dodge anything here. We'll jump straight into it. Firstly, congratulations on your rollout with the Belize Police Department and on what you guys are doing. But I just wanted to start off, how is 2021 starting off for the Belize Police Force?
Well, we look forward to every year being a challenging year for us. That's the way that's the mentality we normally keep in policing. We cannot sit and expect that the fact that an year has changed and we now enter into a new year, that things are going to be different. But while we expect that the year is going to be a difficult one, we still try our utmost best to ensure that we mobilize and strategize and put things in place to be able to make the year as peaceful as we possibly can make it with the assistance of the public. And so while we have entered 2021, so far things have been going well for us. We continue to look at our crime fighting strategy that is currently in the developmental stage and should be ready for release to the public within the next week and a half. But in the time being, we are doing what we can strategically and as well as operationally to ensure that we maintain law and order through the length and breadth of our beautiful Jewel Belize.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear more about that strategy, but before we do, let's tackle the topic at hand. The GI3 formation, and of course that comes with the disbandment of 2 other units that were in place. Let me just ask on paper, clearly this is a policy, a unit that you've created with some thought as to what it's going to execute. What are the objectives here?
Well, let me first and foremost say that while we have disbanded the GSU and the anti-gang task force, the GSU, while yes, they may have left a bitter taste in the mouth of many Belizeans, that the GSU was indeed a formidable unit, and they did some exceptionally good work throughout the years of their existence. And the anti-gang task force, which was only about 2 years old, also did a lot in terms of the gang investigations and charging these gang members under the amendment to the Crime Control and Criminal Justice Act. And so, yes, both of them were very good units. But like with all things, there is always the bad about it. And while anti-gang task force, there was nothing bad out there about them in terms of their performance, we do have that issue as it relates to the aggressive use of force against citizens where the GSU was concerned. And while, yes, they did a lot of good, the bad that they do often overcomes the good that they did. And so it was in that spirit that the new government, when it took office, and you would know that it was a part of their campaign, that if they were to win the election, the GSU would be disbanded. The new government is the police department, and so whatever it is that they have in policy, it is my duty as a commissioner to ensure that the policy of the minister or the government is achieved. And it was with that spirit that myself,
we're having some connection problems there.
We sat down and we decided how we're going to go.
All right, we missed the last. Yeah, we missed the last part of that statement because of some connection issues there.
So I said that it was. Yeah, I said that it was that spirit that myself, our minister, Mr. Musa, and our CEO Mr. Arthur sat down and we decided how we were going to go with the disbandment. And so since we had 2 units that were dealing with gangs, which was the Anti-Gang Task Force and the GSU, we decided that we're going to disband both, and we're going to create 1 unit that is going to achieve the objectives of those 2 units. So you'll find that the Anti-Gang Task Force was dealing primarily with investigating gangs and gathering intelligence on gangs, while the GSU were more out operationally. And so what the GI3 does now is that you have the G, which stands for gang, then we have 3 I's, which is intelligence, investigation, and interdiction. So with the new unit now, we have the intelligence, we have the investigation, and we also have the interdiction of gang members. So what is going to happen? While you have the unit that is going to come under the command of 1 commander, who is Mr. Lyndon Flowers, the unit will have within it 2 arms. 1 arm that will deal with investigating and gathering intelligence on gangs, and the other arm is going to be involved in the operational aspect, going after gang members. So under the intelligence arm, you have Mr. Gomez, who is the commander of that section. He is now tasked with ensuring that intelligence is gathered on gangs, potential recruitment, and the source of those recruitment. So it is being done with a way to ensure that we're also proactive in stemming the recruitments of gangs. And along with that, he also has the responsibility of ensuring that we continue to do these investigations on gang members, gathering the relevant intelligence information, evidence, that we can charge them under the gang law. And then once we have the information, we have the evidence, then these gang members are charged, taken to court, and hopefully we'll see some of them getting incarcerated. Then on the other hand now, we have the operational aspect of it, which is under the command of Inspector Bonilla. He is now going to be tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that we maintain a very strong presence in these gang-ridden areas that are viewed to be proactive in preventing these gang members from executing whatever acts they may want to execute, as well as to be able to, whenever we have the intelligence and information, that they go and pick up these gang members, hand them over to the anti-gang task, to the intelligence section, so that they can be charged. So we now achieve the role of 2 of the previous units under 1, and we're still getting now even more than we were getting before, because now you see that the 2 arms are committed to their own terms of reference in terms of what needs to be done. As well as under the intelligence aspect of it, we also have the deportee section that we normally monitor deportees that comes into the country with a view to ensure that we continue to know what they're doing and so forth. So we continue to do that as well through that same unit. So we believe that with this new unit, we'll be able to achieve much more in terms of stemming gang violence, stemming gang recruitments within the city and even across the country, because we intend to have members of the G3 at every district formation across the country, because we're seeing that gangs have now spread across the country. We have in Punta Gorda, a number of gangs are there now. We have in San Ignacio, we have in Dangriga, we have in Corozal or Rinchwa. So we're seeing gang activities across the country. So we have something in place.
All right, so let me just get in this question here.
To go after those gang members.
So, you know, you have acknowledged in prior interviews with the media that, in fact, it is not just a natural progression that a GSU, a member of the GSU is automatically going to be a part. Yes, you can still hear us? Commissioner?
Yes, I'm hearing.
Okay. So I was saying you've already said that members of the GSU are not automatically going to be a part of the GI3. One of the questions I have is, what is going to take place in training and in the selection of these members to ensure that you don't go back down the road that you saw with the GSU in the public perception?
Well, indeed, yes, Marlene, not every member of the GSU are going to automatically comes over to the GI3 unit. What is currently being done is that all the members of GSU are going through what we refer to as a vetting. And the vetting will entail, one, whether or not they have any affiliation with any of the gangs. Two, if they have a history or we have received allegation of them collecting bribes. Three, if they have a history of of being aggressive while executing their duties. And once it is that any of those officers would fall within any of those categories, then they will be automatically disqualified from becoming a member of the GI3. I just received the vetting report yesterday in respect to all the members of the GSU, and I have already submitted that to Mr. Vidal to look for a replacement for those persons who have failed the vetting. So we'll be seeing that a number of those persons who were at the GSU will be leaving the new unit, and we'll try to inject new blood into the new unit with a view that whatever it is our objectives are, that we're able to achieve that, because we do not want to have this continuous use of aggression against our citizens by the police. Yes, I will admit that there are times that the police must be aggressive, and when the need arises for that, then we're going to ensure that that happens. But it must be done in a legal and a justifiable manner, and that is what we want.
Commissioner, you mentioned something very important there. It struck me because you did mention that a part of this vetting is actually seeing if there is any connection with that particular member of then the GSU to any gang affiliation. So how do you plan on weaning that? That's something that the public have always been mentioning, that there are some police officers who are actually a part of these gangs, who are actually condoning these guys. So what are you going to do now that things are changing to try to make sure that your police force or those in the police force are not affiliated with these guys?
Well, again, the intelligence arm of the GI3 do have that responsibility of ensuring that if it is that we have police officers who we believe are affiliated with gang members, that they investigate them. And I can tell you that under the Crime Control and Criminal Justice Act, the penalty is stiffer for a member of the security force who facilitates or encourages any gang member to be a gang or to engage in any criminal activity. So it is going to be tough for any police officer once we have the evidence against them. But while we have received numerous information, and in some instances credible information of the involvement of police officers in gangs, we have not had persons who have been able to come forward willingly and give statements to say, you know what, this policeman is a member of this gang, we saw him engaging with them. People are afraid to do that. So while we have the information that we can act on internally in terms of removing them from a unit, we do not have sufficient that we can charge them for being member of a gang. And so what we have to do then is to see how we can continue to monitor them with a view to ensure that we collect the evidence, because the truth is, I'm not going to be naive. The truth is we do have a number of police officers who have gang affiliation. And if it is that we have officers with gang affiliation within the GI3, then they're going to treat some gang different than how they treat others. And that is not going to sit well with us, and it is also not going to sit well with the other persons within our society.
Now, you have said before as well that even with the legislative changes, the enhancements on the Crime Control Act and how it allowed for stiffer penalties and more detailed charges on gang members, that while that was created, it was difficult to be able to gather sufficient evidence to levy charges. Will that issue be addressed now that you're looking at approaching the situation of gangs from a more legal perspective?
Yes, Marlene, that is always going to be there, because when we look at cases that have gone through a full court trial within the Caribbean for gang membership, we have looked at the amount of evidence that the court expect the police to produce with a view to give the court that assurance, and the assurance must be beyond all reasonable doubts, that the accused person is in fact a gang member. And I honestly believe that the threshold must be high indeed, because if you're accusing someone of being a gang member, you must have good evidence to show to the court that the person is in fact a gang member. And so the threshold is extremely high. And so what we do is that we will look at these cited cases from across the Caribbean. Jamaica just had one completed, I think about 2 months ago. And that case is very extensive. It gives us a lot in terms of how we can investigate and get our evidence on these gang members. And so our investigations are guided by those cited cases. But notwithstanding that, I can tell you that we have done a lot of to prison to pay, and they're finding ways to pay the fine, and so but I'm sure that if they are to be charged.
Yeah, we're having a break in
we
transmission there as well. So, Commissioner?
Time that what we're doing now is to come charged and convicted. Hello?
Yes, yes. Wait. You broke up towards the end there. You're saying you're trying to make sure that in 2021.
Yeah, you're hearing me now?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
we're hearing you.
Okay, yeah. So what I was saying was that while many of them have been charged and convicted, they continue to be a gang member. And so what we're doing now is to commence our second round of investigation on them to be able to collect sufficient evidence to prove to the court that despite being convicted, they continue to be a gang member. And once you have that evidence, we'll charge them again. They go before the court. And if convicted, I'm sure the court is going to give them an imprisonment sentence as opposed to a fine. So that is what we're working on now.
So while all the policy changes and unit formation is taking place, there's still very active gang activity taking place on the ground, and we see that in whether it is shootings, attempted shootings, or actual murder. From your knowledge, Commissioner, this situation is one that you have battled with flare-ups. You know, I can't even tell you for how long. How do you feel that the GI3 is going to make an impact in what we're seeing now, especially since there's this transition period taking place?
Well, Marlene, we don't expect that GI3 is going to be that silver lining that is going to eliminate the issue of gangs. I believe that as a society, we all have a responsibility of ensuring that we do our part, because the truth be told, the issue of fighting crime and fighting these gang members is not one solely for the police. We have many stakeholders, including every member of our society, who must play their role to be able to rid our society of gangs. And so, yes, we do expect that the GI3 and the other units within the Belize Police Department, which include the SPU, as you would know, the SPU is now in the St. Martin's area where we have the gang flare-ups about 2 weeks ago. And we also have the MIT that we're using mostly now to do road interdictions and these sort of things. But every unit and every police officer in the police department do have a responsibility of ensuring that the laws of our country are enforced. And so, while yes, we have the GI3 who is specifically tasked with going after gang members, it is also responsible of every police officer. And I want to call on the citizenry to continue to work with us, because in 2020, we do get a lot of assistance from the public in terms of giving us information about firearms, drugs, gang activities, and these sort of things, including to solve some of our cases. And we welcome that, and we hope that in 2021 we can build more on that, because that is what is going to help us. Every citizen playing their role in the criminal justice system with a view to ensure that the justice system works for all. For so many years now, we have been hearing that the justice system is not good, it is very poor. But the truth is, while we look at it and we try to blame the police, the prosecution, the court, and the prison, it spans beyond the different arms that have been classified as being part of the criminal justice system, because the justice system cannot work without the citizenry. They are the ones who go to the police, give statement when something occurs is committed against them. And so when the matter goes to court, they are required to go to court and tell the judge or the magistrate what actually transpired. In the absence of them doing so, then the court is impotent in terms of doing what needs to be done to put away the criminal. Yeah. So we all must play our role if we want to see a better justice system.
Absolutely.
We're here talking about GI3, and it's very important, especially when we move on to change things and trying to make sure that the public continues to be safe. But exactly right, Commissioner. Whereby while we've got this GI3 going on, it must be the buy-in from the public that would make it work. So how do we plan to roll this out? We're talking about the GI3, but at the same time, I think we need to roll the information or actually bring the buy-in to the public. How do you plan to do that?
Well, the truth is, Mr. Palacio, is that what we're doing here right now is an example. Explain to the public what the GI3 is all about. And I don't expect that the public is going to get up this morning, hear me saying this, and automatically they're going to buy into it. It's just like when you meet a woman, Mr. Pal, you court the woman, she don't believe you right away. It takes some time, it takes consistency, it takes your behavior, how you behave towards her, in order for her to be sure that you're serious about her. Then she gives in. So it's the same principle applies here. We must go to the public, we must show the public, you know, this is what the GI3 is about, this is what they're going to do, and that must be demonstrated by the actions of the GI3 out on the street, to be able to give the public that assurance that, you know what, GI3 is different than the GSU. And eventually they're going to see it and they're going to buy into it. Now, yes, there is a need for training.
Yeah, we had that break in transmission again.
They're going to use, so provide training for the as you know, we recently have Brown, who is the Dean of Academics, on the training for police officers to be able to ensure that we make the police department more professional in how we deal with the public.
So let me just maximize the time we have and talk about some of the other things that you have already made mention of. When talking about the crime-fighting strategy that you hope to be able to implement, one of the things that you said you want to crack down on is alcohol consumption. Commissioner, tell us what you mean by that and what the hope is to be able to get that situation, why this is a situation that needs to get under control.
Well, we continue to see, Marlene, that a number of murders are as a result of alcohol consumption. Now, in 2020, we saw a significant reduction in that type of murders because, for the most part, you know that the bars have been closed for almost 6 months. So there is a
So we lost you again for a second there, but just say that again. You said there that the bars have been closed for 6 months and?
And so that also means, which would have been caused by a number of persons who, and when that occurs, then the accuracy had reduced significantly. It is still there. Hello?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Hello? Hearing you.
I was saying we lost you from the point you said that the bars were closed at 6 months.
Okay. Yeah, so I was saying that the bars have been closed for almost 6 months. And so with that we have a reduction in the amount of alcohol consumption, a reduction in the amount of drunken people. And may I also tell you that the time that the bars have been closed, we also have a reduction in fatal road traffic accidents. Yeah. Because as you know, that alcohol was also one of the primary driving force behind fatal traffic accidents. So we're seeing great improvements there. But what happens when Corona is gone and the bars are allowed to be open again, and people are going to come out with a bang. They're going to try to consume for all those times that they were not consuming enough. So we have to ensure we have something in place to be able to deal with those situations.
What do you have?
And
what do you plan to put in place to try and deal with this situation? I mean, yes, you know, it is very good for our country that you know, alcohol at this particular point have lessened, but at the same time, in terms of alcohol consumption, but at the same time, alcohol consumption, the onus of that is not on the bars, but rather the people. So how do we plan to deal with this situation?
Yes, of course, and the state cannot tell you how much alcohol to drink, but it is an offense under the Intoxicating Liquor Licensing Act to sell alcohol to a person who is already intoxicated.
Yeah.
It is also an offense to be found drunk in public. And I think that one way how we can address that is to ensure we enforce those pieces of law and see if we can get the law as related to the Alcohol Intoxicating Liquor Licensing Act amended to some extent, where, for example, you don't give extension to a place every day. Extensions must be given sparingly and only for special occasions. We have every weekend the bars getting extension to go till 4 a.m. Man, you already open till 2. Why do you need extension to go beyond 2 o'clock? Right? So once you go beyond that 2 o'clock threshold, you have a bunch of drunken people. Then they leave the bars, they walk on the street, they meet somebody, end up in an argument, then somebody end up dying. Or they jump in a vehicle, drive, and end up killing themselves or killing innocent people. So we have to have a cutoff period. And I think that where we're giving extension till 4 or 5 in the mornings, I don't think that is working for us as a society. And that is where I believe that we can help to make a big difference.
Very interesting. Now let me poke you here a bit. Of course, we know the conversation publicly has initiated about the marijuana and hemp industry. I just want to get your thoughts, Commissioner, on where you see changes in terms of specifically marijuana legislation, whether it can hurt or how it would impact the situation of crime from your view.
Well, I don't think that it is going to have a negative impact, because one of the issues we have right now is that many a times these gang members are warring or going at each other is over turf for the sale of marijuana. So if it is that you have a market where they can sell their marijuana legally to a company that is going to process the marijuana and do whatever needs to be done with it, then there is market for all of them, as opposed to them fighting to sell here or fighting to sell there and killing each other out. So I think that it could have some positive impact in terms of them being a part of the industry. And perhaps maybe what can also happen is that instead of giving license to plant to big time companies or big time people, we can maybe give license to some of these same young men that they can grow, and then they can sell to the companies that are going to be engaged in the processing of the marijuana. So I think it can work for them.
All right. Well, of course, we know we're just asking your opinion there. That is still a discussion that is ongoing. But I thought it'd be interesting to hear from you, knowing the crime situation and some of the motives behind it. Lastly, of course, Commissioner, we got to talk about COVID and COVID regulations. One of the things I wanted to tackle, in addition to what you have reported with the arrest for masks and being out beyond curfew, how has the inter-district enforcement been going? Because we still get reports that people can leave the northern districts when that shouldn't be allowed under the regulations.
Well, it is not that it cannot be. It is not allowed under regulation. The regulation do makes provision for persons to enter or leave the northern districts. It is just that whenever it occurs, it must be done with a purpose. And so what happens if you have, for example, people who works in Belize City and live in the north? We ask the employer to give these people a letter indicating that they are employed with their company in Belize City, and it will require for them to have to commute to and from the northern districts. And that letter that the employee is going to produce to the checkpoint, to the officers at the checkpoint, and the officers will allow them to go in or out of the northern districts. Now, other than that, we have other instances, like, for example, medical emergencies. If a person has a medical emergency, then they too should be allowed. We also have persons who needs to go and buy emergency provisions in the city or in the north. They must also be allowed. And we have people who have to go to the border to pick up persons who are coming into the country having received treatment abroad. So what we do is that we give those persons a pass that they can go in and out of the northern districts. And so, but the truth be told, we do have complaints that the police officers at the checkpoint have been too complacent, and we have addressed that in the sense that they sit in the booth and are not stopping vehicles, questioning people as to why they're going in or coming out of the northern districts. And so I discussed with the commander of Orange Walk yesterday and told him that we need to ensure that the checkpoints are working, that they are questioning people who are going in and out of the northern district. So I am hoping that we're going to see a difference where that is concerned.
Yeah.
What about the recovery rate of your police officers who were down? We know that the police department was very depleted in terms of police officers being on the streets, reason being because of COVID-19. What's that like for you?
Well, we still continue to be down. We still have over 250 officers who are infected. Our recovery rate continues to be good, but equally our infection rate is still high. And we're seeing what we can do to reduce that. But it is difficult because of the amount of contact the police must have on a daily basis with people. And oftentimes we go and we encounter people, we try to deal with them in a professional way, and people become boisterous, end up in scuffle with the police officers, and these are things that are causing our officers to be infected.
Yeah. Now, let me ask, how has the hotline been going, the 0800 parties? Are you getting sufficient cooperation from the public?
Yes, ma'am. The public is cooperating pretty well. We got a number of tips on that hotline, and police acted on those tips, and arrests were made. So it's working pretty well for us.
And any particular area the regulation is proving to be more challenging to enforce?
Well, for us, we have gotten accustomed to it, so it is not seen as being challenging anymore. Yeah. We're waiting for the amendment to the quarantine regulation that is going to provide for the police to be able to ticket people, and I believe the House will meet on Friday. And I think that is one of the agenda. That's one of the agenda to be tabled in the House, so that we can move into the ticketing system. So once that is on stream, we should be able to do much more enforce.
All right, we lost you again there, but I think we've covered most of the issues for this morning, and it was good to be able to get an update from you as to what the new GI3 intends to be able to execute. We, of course, know that the gang situation is one that has to be addressed. And so thank you for sharing all of that information with us.
Thank you so very much, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you too, and have a good day.
Stay safe. All right.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're about to take a break, but when we come back, we'll be joining Abby Godoy. Abby Godoy, who is in the UK. We know for a fact that the lockdown measures have actually been stricter around this time because of a new variant, but Abby will be telling us what the situation is like there. So stay with us. We'll be right back.